So, I know you're probably sitting and staring at your phone screen, waiting for inspiration to strike. You might be scrolling through TikTok or looking at other people's posts on Instagram, hoping that you can come up with a content idea. And then you find yourself absolutely doom scrolling for the next 3 hours. And then at the end of it, you might be beating yourself up because not one single good content idea has come from it. No, just me. Listen, as a content strategist, I've been creating content for the last decade, and I don't always feel like creating content. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys right now. I am currently in one of those phases. Inspiration doesn't seem to be striking. I feel like my content ideas are falling flat, and I simply just don't feel motivated to create content like I normally am. Like, I am sitting down to create this video because I know that I want to consistently show up for you, for my audience, but it's a bit of a struggle right now. But instead of quitting and spiraling out of control, I'm going to show up regardless and just talk to you guys how I get through these phases. And these are the few things that I like to do to navigate through a season of like content creation rut and how I get on the other side of it without beating myself up in the process. So the first thing that I like to do goes against most people's instincts, and that's actually to scroll more intentionally. Now, I am the queen of scrolling for hours on end and calling it research for my job, and I end up on some crazy random side of TikTok that makes me feel worse about myself, makes me not want to create more content, and I'm trying to avoid that. So when I feel myself slipping into a content creation rut, I do still allow myself to scroll on social media. I just approach it in a little bit different of a way, and I have to shift my mindset so that I don't fall down that slippery slope of the comparison game or not feeling inspired by the time I'm done, or literally just doom scrolling and having no result at the end. So the way that I do this is I first limit the amount of time that I'm scrolling. The first way that I like to do this is actually go into my iPhone and go into the settings and limit my screen time. So it will literally kick me out of my social media apps when I've reached that time limit. Sometimes I'll set it to be a bit stricter if I notice myself doom scrolling a bit more, or sometimes I like to lean into a bit of gamification when it comes to scroll time. So I'm like, okay, I have an hour to sit down and do this task. At the end of that task, I'm going to reward myself with 5 minutes of scrolling on TikTok. And it doesn't matter what I scroll through, but I'm going to give myself that fun little reward. And when it comes to intentionally scrolling, listen, I love the girlies in my industry. I love all of the marketing content, and I love all the content creation tips. I also love supporting fellow people in my industry. But I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. When I am in this content creation rut, I have to avoid consuming their content. And it's not that I don't want to share the love. What I simply do is if I come across a biz bestie that is in a similar industry to me and I see their content, I'll hit a like, I'll hit a comment, a share, a save or something and keep scrolling. And this isn't out of like anything bad. It is just I can't go and consume their content because it is going to really mess with my inspirational process. And I don't ever want to copy people. I don't want it to inspire me in the wrong way or make me feel bad about the content that I'm creating. So I will share the love and I will simply keep scrolling. Which brings me right into the next thing that I like to do. And that's actually to go back and look at my own content. And I know I'm not the only person who loves to sit back and rewatch their own TikTok videos or rewatch my Instagram stories a million times. I know I'm not the only one. Please don't make me feel like I'm the only one. It's just you want to see how your content's doing. But I actually, when I am in these content creation ruts, that kind of thing doesn't help. Instead, I go back to my content from years ago. Like I go back to the archives for a couple of different reasons. Number one being that I might find that inspiration is going to strike when I go back and look at some of the things I was talking about, the topics that I was, creating content around, because either maybe my perspective has changed. Maybe I can recreate that piece of content in a new way with new ideas, with new thoughts, or I can go back and I'm like, that was a dang good piece of content. Can I just recreate it? I've done that a couple of times with my YouTube videos where I'm like, this was a high performing piece of content. I need to put this back in the rotation, maybe add new examples, give new anecdotes, but just put that thing back in the rotation. Or number two, it can be super motivational in a way that you might not think. I'll go back and look at that old content and cringe. I'm like, why did I create that? Why does the video look like that? What is going on with my lighting, my hair, my whatever? And it just shows me the progress that I've made in content creation. And I'll find it a bit motivational, knowing that, yes, I might be in a content creation rut right now, but it is one of those things that I will be like, I've come so far, and that is okay. And I can continue this journey with content creation. It's gonna ebb and flow, but I can look back and see how proud I am of myself and just move forward through the bit of a rut. Come on, you knew this one was coming. I actually love to lean onto content repurposing. This is my whole shtick, so you knew this was going to be one of the tips. When I'm really struggling with a platform or I'm really struggling with content creation in general, I'll lean on old posts. I kind of already alluded to that in the last tip where I would tell you, I'll put stuff back in the rotation, the same messaging, the same concept. But sometimes when I'm busy, when I'm in these ruts, when I'm really struggling with content, I will go back and look at like top performing Instagram posts. I'll repost them. I'll go look back at my TikTok videos and see which ones performed really well, re-record them if necessary, or sometimes I will simply just schedule it out and get it out into the world because I get a nice boost of engagement. I am still consistently posting even when I don't have new and fresh ideas. Or recently what I did is I went back to blog posts from years ago that I honestly don't even have published anymore. I've archived them and I've read through some of them and I pulled out some content that will be perfect for LinkedIn and the way that I approach LinkedIn now. A ton of different LinkedIn written posts came from old blog content that I just don't have available anymore. I'm going to refine them, recreate them. But let me tell you what, I went back to about 10 different blog posts and I've pulled out about 30 different LinkedIn posts that I'm going to sprinkle throughout my content calendar for the remainder of the year. And sometimes we get so deep in our niche, so deep in our content creation that we forget to see the bigger picture. We forget our messaging. And by repurposing our content, we're working through the content creation route. Since we're struggling with the new content ideas, this will help maintain our consistency in the messaging and what we're trying to deliver overall. And this will help me in the short term over those couple of weeks, couple of months where things just aren't working for me in terms of content, and it'll push me through to help me in the long run. And if you guys are struggling with the concept of content repurposing, I have so much old content here on YouTube that you can refer back to, or I kind of wrap it all together in this pretty bow inside of the content repurposing guide where I walk you through 4 different video lessons and give you a PDF of over 100 different content repurposing ideas. You guys can grab it at the link in the description below, but let's dive into tip number 4. A lot of you might actually be resistant to this tip, and I understand why, but let me explain first. I want you to actually go and look at your offerings, your super secret formula, your super secret sauce, your framework, whatever it be, how you teach, how you approach your niche or your industry, and look through it for content ideas. The things that people pay you for, your expertise, your knowledge, or whatever you do can be the foundation for some amazing pieces of content. Now, I don't want you to give away your signature framework that people pay you thousands of dollars for all inside of one social media post. No, what I want you to do is find something that is super hard hitting, drill it down, find the one piece of information that people might need to know, and continue to break it down further. And that can be your social media post. Can you figure out ways to simplify even definitions, terms, anything that you teach people, coach people, offer as a service to people? Figure out how to dial it back and give them the most basic level foundations, and that can be a piece of content. I'll do this all the time with older workshops, older paid speaking events that I've done with my presentations. I'll look back at old freebies and lead magnets and find small little golden nuggets of information that is still relevant to my audience that I can start to turn into pieces of content. And this works for 2 obvious reasons. One being, this is going to be fire, high value content that is going to really help your audience. They are going to love this type of content because you are giving them the value that they are so wanting desperately. And this content is going to align with who you are, what you do, who you serve, how you serve, and really start to help them in their buyer journey. So it'll eventually help lead them to a sale through your content. And also, this type of content doesn't require you to jump on that trend that you hate or create pieces of content that just don't feel in alignment with you. And instead, you are creating value-based, authority-based content that will prime people for a purchase potentially. And this last tip here is probably one that might be a little bit more obvious, but it's always a good reminder because even I find myself forgetting this one at times, is to start to look for inspiration outside of your own niche. I love looking at other niches outside of the marketing realm, even outside of the small business, online, entrepreneur realm, because I find so much inspiration in what other people are doing and what other people are creating. I love to look at the patterns of big time influencers and see what's working for them. They are some of the best people to look at because they're always experimenting, always testing new things. And lately I've found a ton of visual inspiration from artists. They are filming the coolest stuff, or they're taking pictures, or just showing up online in such a unique way because they are an artist by nature, so it's so visually appealing. And honestly, right now, I have absolutely loved consuming ridiculous ASMR content and figuring out why this works and what does it do for my brain, and maybe how I can wrap some of these types of content into my content creation. By just getting out of the infopreneur realm and the type of content that I'm used to consuming, it helps push me outside of my bubble and find inspiration in other ways so that I'm not just repeating the same things over and over and over again when it comes to producing my content. It gets me out of my marketing echo chamber and really brings the inspiration that I need to find myself out of the deep valley of content creation ruts. So if you are in a content creation rut, just know that you're not alone. You're gonna get through this, and I promise you inspiration is sitting right on the other side. Again, don't forget to grab the content repurposing guide for some actionable advice on how you can get out of the content creation rut while also showing up still on social media and marketing your business. You can grab it at the link in the description below, and I will see you guys next week. Don't forget to hit subscribe.